Okay, I have one shot at this. The baby is down for a nap. It is Tuesday. I release podcasts on Wednesday. I am barely going to have enough time to edit this because it's very hard for me to do solo podcasts without any editing because I say like and way too much. But I'm very excited today because we're going to be talking about a topic that I know very, very well. And I'm going to be kind of breaking down what it's like to be a live streamer. And I know that a lot of people that listen to this are part of my community. But if you aren't, and you are just someone in my life that doesn't really understand what I do, get ready. It's going to be a good one. So, I made lots of notes for today. I have a couple articles up to give some background and information. So bear with me as I may take some breaths and kind of gather my thoughts and see what we're doing. So I'm going to try to not have to edit very much. So wish me luck. So I titled this episode, So You Want to Be a Streamer. And the reason why I did this is because I cannot tell you how many times I've had to explain what I do at this stage in my life, not what I've done in the past, but what I do currently, especially before I was married, because, society deems you kind of not as responsible for yourself when you're married, when you're a team, right? But as a single woman supporting myself, when I would tell people I was a songwriter, I would get, oh, that's wonderful. Oh, that's great. Tell me more about it. That's so exciting. Oh, Nashville. I love Nashville. Oh, it just must be the most incredible life. Meanwhile, when I tell people I'm a Twitch streamer or a streamer in general, it's met with a lot of confusion and people just straight up asking, how do you make money on it? Which I think is hilarious because the potential for making money on the live streaming outlet for me personally is so much greater than the potential for making money as a singer-songwriter in Nashville. And I will get into that. So let's break it on down for people who don't know. Live streaming is a no holds bar. You hit record or go live, you hit the live button, and you hope that people will want to come in and hang out with you. There's not a lot you can do to get those people in the room, and it is very difficult to keep them retained, but it is such a magical experience. And I have had quite the journey myself doing this. When I first started streaming, I started off when I was still doing the singer-songwriter thing, and I kind of just jumped into streaming for fun. And I was very different in that I held back a lot of my opinions. I held back a lot of my boundaries and things like that. There was always a wall up between me and my audience, which I believe is very common in music and entertainment in general. I know a lot of musicians and actors and stuff try to make it seem like they're so connected to their fans, but there is nothing that they can do to connect with fans more than being in a live chat room talking to everyone, talking to them. I don't care what you say. I don't care about this song that spoke to you tremendously. They are not talking to you. They did not write that song for you. They wrote it about themselves and they're not talking to you. But when you're live streaming and you're reading a comment that says, Janelle, what's your favorite show that you're watching right now? And you say, thanks for asking, Billy Bob. My favorite show is, that's a whole different experience. It's also difficult at times and it's also overwhelming at times, but it is truly such a unique experience. I'm also going to be over here like looking at my notes from time to time because I go on tangents and I cannot stay on track. So what is live streaming? It's you go onto a platform like Twitch, YouTube. Some people do it on Instagram. Some people do it on TikTok. And you basically interact or ignore your audience, but you hope that people come in, watch you, and support you financially. That is what keeps you going. There are different ways to make money on the platform. We'll get into that. But I do believe that it's a very special relationship that you form with your audience and your community if your community isn't gigantic, which most communities are not. And it is very exciting. I was actually dating someone when I first started streaming, and they loved gambling. They loved slot machines. They loved gambling. And they were like, oh man, streaming is like gambling. You get on and you never know what you're going to roll or if you're going to hit the jackpot, which is such a different mentality than what I took. I was just so excited to connect with people. I was very lonesome. I was in a relationship that wasn't really fulfilling me. My career was kind of not really doing much. And it was such an incredible experience for me to connect with other people that shared interests with me. And some of them even recognized me. Some of them were longtime, like, I hate saying fans, but followers of mine from when I was on American Idol, which was a very, very long time ago. So that was how I viewed it. But he does have a point, and people do think of it as that way sometimes. That's not the way you want to think about it if you're trying to get into it. So let me start with how I got into it. Basically, I was doing music full time, singer-songwriter, traveling, doing shows, writing music throughout the week, trying to make it. Quite frankly, not making it. I had a lot of support from my then partner and bandmate, and I will continuously express gratitude over that forever, because that could not have happened for me. I could not have invested as much time and energy as I did into the singing songwriting thing without that support. So granted, I wasn't like doing anything great and I wasn't eating everything I wanted. I'd go out to dinner with my friends and I'd try to order off the kids' menu, or they'd try to split checks and I would be the embarrassed one in the back that couldn't go in with them on, bottles of wine and fancy dinners. But I was getting by, right? Had I been paying high rent like this city demands of you, had I been trying to have a social life to a certain degree, had I don't know, I one of my biggest regrets during the singer-songwriter phase was that I missed a couple funerals and weddings during that time. I can't sleep at night thinking about these missed moments, and it hurts because I was so far away from my family and so far away from my past that I lost that connection and I wasn't able to travel unless I had a show back home. So that was pretty tough. I did an audition for this company called comicbook.com. Some of you may know it. They have their headquarters is here in Nashville, and I auditioned to do a show with them. I was very excited about it, and I actually got the role in my audition. And that was kind of how my journey of the hosting on a regular basis and even into the podcast, because my other podcast, I say my sister podcast, but my other podcast that I host is called Comic Book Nation, and it's with comicbook.com, and it is still going strong, and I'm with them still today. So that's kind of how I started with comicbook.com. Many people have different avenues of getting into that side of entertainment news. I did an audition. I had an agent, and that was just a fun thing for me. So while I was at that company, I made very close friends with my co-host, Brandon Davis. And he just mentioned to me one time, after watching me kind of read the comments in one of our shows, I was just live reading and scrolling and picking out and choosing which comments to answer during our show that we hosted together. And he goes, you should really get on Twitch. I said, I don't know what that is. I've never heard of such a thing. Checked it out. And this was in 2017, I believe. It was very, very overwhelming. It's twitch.tv. And I just felt like it didn't work for me. I kept thinking, this is weird. Like, this is a strange format. There are a lot of trolls. I don't want to be treated unprofessionally. I've dedicated my life to entertainment. I'm still trying to do music. I just don't know if this is for me, because back then I tried not to curse like in interviews for music. I tried to kind of act like I was super Christian and that kind of thing. I'm not saying I'm not, I am not Christian. I'm a free spirit. I basically was playing a role of what I thought country music wanted back then. And I didn't really express any of those opinions. And I also didn't ever want conflict. I don't like bringing conflict upon myself because it really goes to my heart. It really affects me. So I was perusing, trying to find different things to watch. And on these platforms, there's different categories. There's, your favorite retro games. There's a title section for that. There's current games, Fortnite and Call of Duty and things that you like that. There's a whole section now of just chatting, which is what I do mostly, just chatting, which also makes sense with the podcast. There's a whole podcast section even. And I actually came across another female streamer. Her name was Kitty Plays. And she was dominating the platform, and she played Overwatch and Fortnite and things like that. And I would leave whenever she played games, but she would always start off the streams talking. And I was so inspired by her outlook, and I aligned with her so much spiritually and her kind of core values, beliefs, and just kind of the way she stylized her form of streaming. She had hundreds of people watching, and she would read whatever comment she felt like it, and then she would just ignore anything negative. And I was like, gosh, that's okay. You know what? I can do this. If that's the approach, I can do this. This is a perfect example of what I wanted to do. So I fired up my Mac, which was impossible to stream in 2017, impossible to stream on a Mac back then. I had lots of help, and I figured out how to get the Mac running, a program that could get my live stream out, and it was a disaster, but I loved it. I played some of my favorite video games, Mario Kart, Nintendo games in general, Donkey Kong Country specifically 2. That's my favorite game of all time. And I just had a blast. Now listen, my audience did not roll over with me. It wasn't like, oh, hey guys, I'm on Twitch, come on through. And I had, 5,000 people come say what's up. I was lucky if I got one person once in a while that was just interested, going, what is she doing? And they would come through and just kind of say hello. And I will not forget you beginners, you people that were there in the beginning. I used to ask my parents, I would call them in Florida and I'd say, Mom, Dad, can you guys pull up your phone and or laptop and just leave me running in the background for 5 hours while I streamed so that I would have viewers? And so when I started off, I had about 3 to 5 viewers. And 2 of those were my parents, and one of them was my then partner. So that's just kind of how it was. And I clearly could talk to myself for hours, and I did. I had a really good time. So that's how I got started. And that's kind of how everybody starts, very low numbers. Now I'm going to run some numbers by you really quick because I did not realize this until now. I started doing some research. And I looked up some of these numbers that are involved. So streamer volume and viewership. As of October 2024, Twitch has 6.91 million active streamers, down from a peak of 9.89 million in January 2021. So COVID boosted a lot of stuff, but it's falling back down to, I'm not even going to say a reasonable number because, guys, almost 7 million streamers. We're not talking about viewers or just people on Twitch. We're talking about 7 million people are trying to stream. That's crazy. That is a lot. It says 7.3 million unique channels stream monthly with an average of 92,600 to 98,056 concurrent streams at any given time. So you get on Twitch and there are almost 100,000 streams live. That's mind-blowing as well. The success metrics, this is what really shocked the heck out of me. So to give you some success metrics, here's the most important one, guys. Top 1%. So the top 1% of the entire platform is averaging 18 to 40 viewers. It puts you in the top 1% of streamers on the whole platform. That is very eye-opening for me when I was doing this research, because I definitely land within that threshold. I was kind of blown away that I can call myself in the top 1% of my industry. That's pretty insane and honestly beautiful. That's very encouraging because you tend to get pretty discouraged when it comes to numbers on this platform. Let's see, monetization and income. So let's talk about monetization so you guys know. I think it's easier for me just to explain it than to read it out of an article. So on Twitch specifically, There are a couple ways to bring in income for yourself. And every platform has their own currency and their own way to monetize. But my bread and butter is Twitch. So I'll just give you guys the rundown on that. Basically, there's subscriptions. Subscriptions is kind of the one that people really push a lot because you can give back member benefits like no commercial viewing and customized emojis that you can use in the chat. And you get to be part of the club, right? I'm a subscriber to this person. That is different depending on where you live in the world. But I think for the most part, it averages to be like $5.99. You split that 50-50 with Twitch. And there you have it. Like you have a little bit of income. Now you can imagine you would need a lot of subscribers and you would need them to choose to do that every single month to make a very big impact in your income. Another currency that they use is called bits. Bits are kind of like cents. I like to explain it this way whenever I'm trying to tell people what's going on. When you're walking down the street of Broadway in Nashville and you see a musician standing on the corner playing their guitar or violin and they have their case open and you go drop them a $5, or you grab money out of your pocket and you have change leftovers, 5 cents, 1 cent, whatever. I'm just going to throw it in there. It's the same kind of thing. You're dropping money into their tip jar, essentially. And each bit equals 1 cent. So if you drop 500 bits, you're dropping $5 to the streamer. Now, the streamer gets all of that revenue. They get the $5, but as the person giving the bits, you've had to pay an upcharge to buy those bits to then distribute them. So that's interesting. The third option is the one that I like the most. It's the one that I try to promote the most because it results the highest amount of income for the streamer, at least in my opinion, and less compromise for the person giving the money. And that is flat out tips. So it's linked to your PayPal or credit cards. You do a transaction, a quick digital transaction for however much you want to donate, $8.88, $79.85, whatever you want. And it will go through PayPal. So the streamer will pay a PayPal fee as well as a certain percentage on that tip. But if the tip is above, say $3, you're still making more. Like you're still getting more from that. So those are kind of like the 3 avenues that really create an income for streamers. This is where it brings me to the challenges. The challenges are discoverability. I'm reading this article again, and it says Twitch's algorithm favors established channels and the viewer to streamer ratio has declined, like severely, you guys. It has declined incredibly just over the past years that I've been there, from 2017 to obviously here 2025. So as you would imagine, it is pretty difficult for new streamers to break through. I don't know if it's easier now than it was back when I started, but I honestly had no idea about any of this when I started. I just started because I wanted to try something. Only less than 10% of streamers achieve significant success, which means sustainable income or a large following, with many streaming for years to near zero viewers. This is wild. I do know a lot of people that are just trying to get their foot in the door and hoping for that big break. It's kind of like music. So I get it. And it's difficult. And like I said, this is incredible that I am part of the less than 10% that can make my own income doing this. And I'm so incredibly grateful for that. Okay, so there's some numbers to think about. There's some background that you can kind of just find on the web. And I am really glad to share that. And I'm really excited that I looked that information up. And I'm very proud of how far I've come. I'm doing this new thing in my life where I'm actually trying to give myself credit from time to time, because if you listen to my previous podcast about American Idol, I am very much struggling with anyone ever saying that I'm famous or that I'm successful. In general, it's hard for me because to me, like, my vision of success is being a streamer with thousands of viewers. Being a streamer with hundreds of viewers, I do not have that. I get very excited when I reach like 70 viewers. It's very exciting for me. So to just kind of see where I fit into this makes me feel very proud, and I'm trying to own that pride in myself. So I'll just pat myself on the back for now. So let's get into it. This is part of a dialogue that I brought up last night on my live stream with several of the people in my community who know me very well and know my journey, as well as my moderators, which are the people that hang out in my chat that kind of take care of business in case we have kind of wretched people coming in and being terrible, or just helping me out from time to time. So shout outs to our mods. I absolutely adore my mods. It's taken a long time to form a family and a unit that I feel really safe with, but I love the people that I've entrusted power to in my channel. So they said a few things that they think would be a good discussion point. And so I'm going to kind of shout them out and read some of their prompts and kind of a riff on those. So let's start with this. Things that people don't know about live streaming, I guess. I don't know how exactly to put that, but just a few things. You need to be prepared to cut certain things out of your life is one of the things that they said. And yes, that is correct. Funnily enough, is that a word, funnily? Funnily enough, when I asked my community about topics and prompts that I could include in this, So You Want to Be a Streamer podcast, they only really brought up the negatives, which is pretty telling. They're pretty aware of how difficult it is and how challenging it is in certain ways. So bear with me. I know this is going to sound a little negative because a lot of these prompts are intense, but I will also be talking about some of the awesome stuff too. So you need to be prepared to cut certain things out of your life. I think what we were saying in this is that some of the most successful streamers are actors. I don't know how else to say this. I don't want to say con artists because I think that's a little aggressive, but they are playing a role to receive money on the internet from strangers. There are very, very famous and large streamers that have withheld the fact that they're married or that they're in committed relationships so that people will tip them. They're more likely to tip them. They're more likely to want to watch them, especially if they are dressed provocatively or putting out provocative content. A lot of streamer females I know have OnlyFans accounts, and they don't want to kind of mess up the allure of, I don't even know what, possibly, I guess, not having a significant other. I don't know. There's no way that they're going to get with a viewer. Like, it just does not happen. But I guess whatever works, whatever gets them tips. So I feel like that's kind of what we were talking about. You need to be prepared to cut certain things out of your life. So maybe you can't be as transparent about your life as you would like to be. Also, the amount of time that it requires. So when I first started streaming, I probably would stream for around 5 to 7 hours each time. Now, granted, I didn't have a set schedule, and I only streamed, I think, 3 days a week. But I would go for a very, very, very long time with very few viewers and very little chat, kind of back and forth, because I didn't really have anyone watching me. So that is a challenge as well. And it cut into my personal life. I didn't see my partner as much. I didn't have as much of a social life. It was just kind of dedicated community chat hangs. So I guess that I think that would be a good example. Some people get too wrapped up in it, I feel, where they cannot get a balance there. And I think everyone knows about the work-life balance and that it needs to be a good, healthy number. And I do feel that a lot of Twitch streamers do not respect that. They don't take that. They will sit there and at the detriment of their family and friends and health, stream for way too long. And that's just my opinion. I don't believe in things like subathons. Subathons are basically, you set a timer and you hope that people sub, and the more that they subscribe to you AKA give you money, the longer your timer bumps up and you have to stay on. And I've seen people have to stay on for 24 hours, longer than that. Some people will sleep on camera, some people don't. I know back when I first started, people wouldn't sleep on stream. Anyways, it's a big thing. It's a whole big thing. But those are the types of things that I think kind of lead to burnout and just not really loving what you're doing anymore. Something else that was mentioned, you can't be as open as you want to because of doxing, swatting, and threats. Correct. For anyone who doesn't know, doxing, I don't even know what the actual definition of it is, but the doxing thing is an internet term for basically your private information being put out publicly. We're talking address, phone number. It could go as deep as social security numbers, family members' information, like location where you are currently, any private information that you do not want out there. In my experience, I've been doxxed, I would say at least 5 to 7 times. And it comes in different forms. It comes sometimes as them just typing in the chat, which is really easy to just kind of push away and make it, invisible. But it has also come in the form of people creating usernames with my phone number, usernames with my address, and following me or subscribing to me. And the alert comes on the screen and I see it and I have to just poker face, pretend like it's not upsetting me, which is quite scary. One of the worst versions of doxing that happened to me was when they did that. They created the usernames. They were flashing up on screen. They were of my family's phone numbers, addresses, first, middle name, first, middle, last names, everything. But they were also sending me direct messages saying that they were on their way to come kill me while I was streaming. And they put the address clearly. They knew where I was. That was pretty awful. And that is the source of me closing all DMs on everything. I have no DMs open to anyone. So if you're ever like, Janelle, I DM'd you. No, you didn't. You can't DM me. If you try to DM me, I think Instagram is the only one that like makes you think you do. It just goes to a junk file that I never ever look at. So I have no idea that you did that. And that's me putting up a boundary that I have to do because it's happened to me too many times. Also, dick pics have happened way too many times. Another thing, so we've covered the threats, we've covered the doxing. Another horrific thing that has happened to streamers, and unfortunately has happened to myself, this is not nearly as common as doxing, is something called swatting. Swatting is very, very serious because it has led to death. And what it basically is that someone will find your address where you're at, located, streaming, while you're live. They will call local law enforcement. They will pretend to be you or reporting about you. And they will say you have done horrific things, that you are about to do something horrific. And then they proceed to send a SWAT team to your house. I find this to be terrible on law enforcement's part because they don't screen. Like there's no way for them to know, but they also don't they don't know that you're being swatted, but they also don't know what swatting is. So when I was swatted, I was home alone and I had my cameras going off outside of my house. I have a lot of security cameras and I saw that it was like a SWAT team and I went, okay, what is going on? And my stomach flipped. I was live. I had to put on the poker face. I said, hey guys, hang on 1 second. Like someone's at my door. I got to go check it. And I paused the stream. I muted my mic and I left this space and went downstairs. I picked up my dogs. I didn't want him running out the door. And when I opened the door, I had guns pointed at me. They were circling my house. There were fire trucks, ambulances, cop cars. It was unbelievable. Now, luckily, when this happened, my husband, then he was my fiance, was pulling up simultaneously and walking in with his golf clubs. And he goes, I think you guys are at the wrong house. And so he really threw them off. They got very confused. I also said, hey guys, I think I'm being swatted. And they had no idea what I was talking about. which is not good. They should know what that is. They should be informed. They should be trained on this, because in the news, there have been reports of swatting taking place, and the person answering the door didn't have the chance to say, hey, I haven't done anything wrong. They were just shot the moment they opened the door. So it's a very serious thing. It's incredibly scary. I have PTSD from it. It's a trauma that I carry with me. And now that I have a baby, I'm absolutely petrified, and I think about it all the time. There's not much you can do to prevent these things from happening. And there's no way you can go get the people that did it, because unfortunately, again, our law enforcement is antiquated. Our systems are antiquated. They can't keep up with hackers. They can't keep up with internet people who know how to scam the system. We should have a whole entire task force figuring out swatting incidents, because not only is it scary and dangerous, it's also a waste of resources and money of our taxpayers. So that's a huge problem. And that is something that I probably spent way too long talking about, but it is a huge, huge part of my life. And unfortunately, I have to carry that with me. So that's another thing that was brought up in my chat. Another one is the pressure to be the pressure to be what everybody wants you to be. And how do you stay true to yourself and do what makes you happy? I have heard of a lot of streamers that start off playing one game on the platform. One game only. They get a huge following for this one game because it's everybody's favorite game that they're playing for. And then they go, gosh, I'm getting tired of playing this game. I play it for, 4 or 5 days a week for hours, and I'm sick of it. I want to pivot and do something else. And as soon as they switch games or do a different category, their audience falls off. They disappear. That does happen. And I just feel so incredibly fortunate, because one of the positives that I have written down over here is my community. I treat them as my friends. They treat me as their friend. And we actually talk about different content that I could do. And they are so encouraging. And they actually push me off my ass to do things that I want to do. They're encouraging. Like, they support me and all the things I want to try. And I am so lucky that I have a community like that. It also doesn't hurt that I'm part of the Just Chatting category, which is a talk show, podcast, do whatever you want category. I didn't just play Mario Kart and that's all that I do. So again, I just love the community that I am a part of, that I get to say, like, I kind of am the leader of, because, oh my gosh, they're just so awesome. They're so motivating and accepting people, and they teach me things all the time. And hopefully they have fun learning with me when I want to try something new. But yes, that does happen a lot on the platform. Here's something that I added into the mix. And I hope no one takes this the wrong way in my life. Although, let's be real, I feel like a lot of the people that are close in my life don't watch my podcast or even streams or anything. So I can probably say whatever I want and they'll never know. Whenever I meet new people, or even just like, okay, I was going to buy a car. Like, I was trying to buy a car, and the car salesman was like, well, what do you do? Because they have to know what you're going to do to get approved for like income purposes. I was like, oh, I'm a Twitch streamer. And instead of like treating it as, okay, that's a job, like, how much do you make? Blah, blah, blah. He goes, oh, really? Yeah, I stream. And well, no, it wasn't stream. It was, yeah, I've been thinking about doing that. I'm going to be a streamer. And I don't find anything wrong that people want to be streamers. But imagine if you were like, yeah, I'm a lawyer, and someone goes, oh, yeah, I'm going to do that. Or like, I'm a hit singer. Oh, yeah. I'm going to be a hit singer. It just, it seems to be a common reaction that I get quite often is, oh, I could do that. Oh yeah, that's no big deal. Like, yeah, I can do that. And that kind of hurts a little bit, because it feels like it makes me feel like it's not talent based. It makes me feel sometimes that like people just don't know. And that's why I'm doing this podcast. People don't know how hard it is. People don't know. I say it all the time. I'm like, someone will say, oh, I could do that. And I look at my husband, it's like a secret shady thing that I do. I'll go, they get swatted one time, they will never, ever fire up that live ever again. Like, or they get doxxed once, they will never do it again. It's not for everyone, and it's harder than you think. And clearly it's hard to make it. So that is something that does bother me. It's not anything that I lose sleep about, but it is something worth noting that happens for sure. Another thing that was brought up and that I also kind of riffed on and added in here is the difference in fans and community between Twitch and music for me personally. I will say that Twitch followers, fans have higher expectations of you. They expect you to answer their chat, every single comment that's in the chat. They expect you to respond to DMs. They expect you to follow them back. They have a lot of expectations. In music, I feel like they genuinely just wanted to support my music. Like they just loved my content and like what I was putting out there. Like, yes, they liked me too, but I do feel a sense of entitlement from some people in the chat. Like some people, and it's usually not any of my like serious community. It's usually strangers that come in. It's usually the new people that join a community. Like they'll jump in and after 3 comments, they'll be like, you didn't read my comment. And I go, well, I've read all 3 of your comments. I just missed the one because there's a ton of comments going in the chat. Or they'll be like, hey, I followed you on Instagram. You should follow me back. And I go, no, I don't know who you are. And I don't consume your content. Like I'm not going to do that. You don't get on my timeline. I need content of baby information because I'm a new mom trying to make it. Like, so that has been frustrating. I can't stand the follow for follow stuff. It's very uncomfortable for me, especially when I really care about people like in my channel and in my chat and my community, but I'm not going to follow on all social media platforms because like I said, I don't want my algorithm. I don't want my feed to be just mashed up with all of that. I legit want to see cooking and puppies and baby content. And that's the truth. So, yeah, I feel like I do follow friends that sometimes make content that I don't like, but they're my actual IRL friends, and their income and their success depends on followers. And so therefore I have to support my friends in that way. Now, if somebody who's like a real estate agent is like, hey, you should be following me because I'm your Twitch follower. No, it's your follower count is not contingent on your success in your career the way that a content creator's is. So that's kind of the way I think about that. People cross the parasocial boundaries if they're given a certain role. That was brought up as well. If you don't know what parasocial boundaries are, parasocial is kind of like this thing where because you spend so much time talking to the camera and kind of communicating with your community and people really get to know you super, super well if you share a lot of information, they feel like they know you on a certain level. They also feel that like they're dating you or you're their very, very best friend or something inappropriate. And luckily, that does not really happen to me very much because I am so open about my relationships. And I also set those boundaries real fast. In my stream, I'm like, no, bro, that's not cool. I don't feel about that. Don't look at me that way because I don't look at you that way. I try to be very, very clear to avoid that. Another thing that is, and this will be like the last like negative stuff, and I'll close with some really cool stuff. Well, cool stuff for me. Another thing that is quite, I think it's discouraging. I don't like it, but I mean, heck, it makes them a lot of money. The biggest role models on the platform, the people that have like made it, a lot of them are just drama. A lot of them are, I'm sorry to say, but like just BS content. Like, what are you even doing? You're not making the world a better place. You're not making people happy. Like, why are people into this? And I fear for our children because I just can't believe some of the stuff that they watch. I don't get it. There's a lot of streamer on streamer drama. He said, she said. There's been some really like negative stories about very like high stress, high drama things that go on. I am so separated from my streamer friends. Like I support them as streamers, but we don't hang out IRL, you know? I'm not like going over to their house and sitting with them on stream. And I feel like some of the bigger streamers do that from time to time. I just feel like sometimes there's no class. It just doesn't feel like there's a level of class the way that there is with like the Grammys. Like all the musicians get together and everybody just kind of sucks it up and is pleasant to one another. I just don't feel that from the streaming world amongst the bigger streamers. It just feels beefy and people just say extreme things to get attention and they do extreme things. And it's not my vibe. It's not something that I super love to see. I also I also don't understand why big streamers, none of them have really pushed to become more mainstream. Like Ninja's done a good job of this or like tried to. I think he did like The Masked Singer and some other things, but I'm surprised more big streamers aren't doing that. And I think the reason for that is they're not entertainers. They're just regular people who made it. You know, they're not people that are like, okay, I've been working in the entertainment industry since I was 4 years old and I want to be an actor. I want to be a host. I want to be a musician. I want to, you know, whatever. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but I would love to see more streamers mainstream because I would love more of a light shown on what we do because I hate I hate meeting someone new and the assumptions that are made when I say I'm a live streamer sometimes. So overall, I just adore my journey on the platform, good, bad, ugly. I don't go to bed going, oh my God, I was swatted like a year ago or whatever. I go to bed going, wow, I have such a beautiful community of people that I get to share my life with. And that is really special. It's really special. I think that's the number one thing about being a Twitch streamer, being a streamer in general, is building friendships, and also just learning from people of different backgrounds and different places all around the world, creating such a cool environment to hang out. I hang out with my community more than I do any of my real friends. I keep saying IRL, in real life is what that stands for. And I'm so lucky that they're freaking cool. You know, they're cool people. And if they're not, we just ban them. A couple cool things that have kind of happened in my life. And sorry, guys, excuse me. I woke up sick. So such is life. It's been a long week, long weekend already. One of the cool things that I got to do was team up with Williams Esports. They are kind of aligned with F1, Formula One, and the Williams team there. They have an esports version of their F1 team, which is so cool. I got to do a bunch of sponsored events with them, including going out to the Miami Grand Prix. And that was so spectacular. That led to me being a huge fan of Formula One and Williams in general. My favorite driver is actually there now, Carlos Sainz, and also Alex Albon. I love him. If you ever want to talk about F1, we definitely do that a lot in the chat. I've also been featured on Twitch's front page and things like that many times. I have a lovely friendship with Dan Clancy, who is the CEO of Twitch. I love going to TwitchCon. I've been for many, many years, and I performed in their talent shows, and I've hosted their Tiltify charity plaza shows and things like that. And it has just been amazing. Something else that I love to do is charity streams. So we've raised over $10,000 total for charities. And that is something that's honestly so incredible that I never ever thought I'd be able to do. And there's just so much. There's so much more. And I could just go on. And I do intend on doing another one of these, but with a big streamer, not just me. I'm small cookies, truly. When I really think about it, of all of my friends on Twitch, I do feel that I am way smaller than most of them. So it would be really fun to get on here and do a really cool episode with a few of them actually. And I'm looking forward to that. I think that'll be really good content. So yeah, we'll do that. We might even do it live. My first podcast was live, and that was such an experience. But I hope you guys learned a little bit about Twitch and about being a Twitch streamer. And I'm not discouraging anyone from giving it a go or a try. But I do need to say this: do not start streaming because you think you're going to make a lot of money. Do not start streaming thinking you're going to be famous. Start streaming because you have a talent or a need to entertain and create, and you want to have a fun hobby. And then if anything happens along with that, what a beautiful ride it is. What an amazing journey it can be, like mine. I have been supporting myself with Twitch being my pretty much only source of income since 2017. I blow the minds of my tax guy, and I make my parents proud, which is all I've ever wanted to do. I have said it on national television. They said, "Why do you want to be American Idol?" I said, "I want to make my parents proud." And I'm so lucky that my boomer parents are proud of their Twitch streamer girl, because that means so much to me. It matters a lot in my heart. So the fact that if you're listening and you are part of that, if you're part of the people that send in the tips, the media shares, the bits, if you're a subscriber, if you just watch, please know that just that alone has created, dream fulfillment, making my parents proud and being able to support myself. I got out of a bad situation because of Twitch, and I found independence because of being a streamer. And it was life-changing for me, absolutely life-changing. And I would not change a thing. The fact that I can still do this, I still stream 4 days a week, plus record this podcast, plus do another podcast. The fact that I can do all of that while being the primary caretaker for my child is truly such an honor and such a blessing. And I'm just so happy to be here. So if you are listening to this podcast, thank you so much for doing that. And if you left a review or anything like that, thank you as well. It really does make a difference. Hopefully I did okay. And I hope the rasp turned all of you guys on.